I really want to share the story on why I have PTSD. Certain days and especially evenings, certain times it's just bad. It's just a shit time. And there's no reason for it. Oh, thank you. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I absolutely never wanted to show her working. Shit. I don't know how I'm gonna do this. Thank you, my puppy. You are so awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Let's just dive right in. When I was 6 years old, my hand got sucked into a submersible water pump. We were at a vacation resort with my grandparents, and I remember most of it. Not the actual arrival, but the whole incident. I remember the slides being super busy, going to the cold swimming pool and swimming around an island. It was so weird. I thought the pool was round and I would hit a corner and keep going, hit a corner and keep going. And it turns out the pool was like octagonal. So it was, it had like corners, and I didn't realize, with an island in the middle. I remember going to the island, touching it, and then seeing this weird object in the water. And I got a little bit closer to it, I heard a proper rumbling, saw like a tube on the outside, bounced on the tube a couple of times. I was not sure what it was. I found a leaf, because I thought that it must be doing something, and got the leaf, went down to the actual pump underwater, and I remember taking the leaf and just like looking at it get sucked in, and as it was going in, the next moment my hand got caught in the current, and it was just like pulled in. And the actual submersible water pump has an impeller which creates the actual force that pushes the water through, and the impeller is what sliced my hand. So it literally just wreaked havoc, just pulled all of the meat and stuff up into a ball up here. This pinky was absolutely torn off, ripped off, just hanging on a little shred. As it was inside the pump, because it's a submersible water pump, it has like metal rods, so it's supposed to stand upright. This one unfortunately tipped over, and because it was on its side, the actual entire whole thing was open and exposed, and that's how it got me. It turns out it was an actual error on one of the employees there. He needed to take it to a borehole a couple of meters away, and needed to change the tube, and because it was so hot and busy, he just dumped it into the cold swimming pool and thought it would have been fine. This is the part I don't want to talk about. Shame. You are so good. So, as it got sucked in, my hand was stuck, and I started yanking, trying to get out. that became the nightmare response that I still actually struggle a little bit with. Yeah, that being stuck and not being able to get out. And because I was yanking and the immediate pain sensation, I screamed. I remember the like scream, and it's part of the dreams, the nightmares. It's that stuck feeling and screaming and nobody can hear you. Fuck, I hate that. I remember just, getting like this weird, absolute calm sensation about me. And I looked up and I could see the water like bobbing, just like the flicker. And it was so close. It was so close, but because I was 6 years old, I could not lift that bump or get my hand out. So I don't know what happened. For some reason, I knew exactly where my granddad was. I remember basically having like an out-of-body experience, seeing myself in the water with my hand in the pump, seeing my body literally floating there, and seeing my granddad underneath the palm trees standing. And the next moment, I don't know how, I just jumped. And I remember the break 3 out of the water. That's coming out. And that's the weirdest feeling. That has been the panic response. Whenever I get very, very anxious, it's usually this response. And it's still there. It's 24 years later, and it's still there. I went up, I remember it was the biggest gulp of air I took, and I screamed at the top of my lungs, just like, "Granddad, help." And I went down with the jump, and the actual pump lifted upright. And I don't know, I just realized, but I can step on it now. And as I stepped on it, I basically took my feet, stepped on the grate, and pulled my arms out. And then I started swimming as fast as I can, literally through the water. And I remember looking back and seeing my arm drag with this trail of blood just following me. And as I was so close to the edge. Just as I got to the edge, Granddad jumped in. And I remember burying myself into his like shoulder and just like screaming. I never realized that not reaching the edge never got to the edge. I was alone in the pool, like literally alone. There was not a single other being in that pool. The closest one was Granddad underneath the palm trees. That just spiraled from there. I didn't even realize how big it was, but the aftermath was even bigger. It was, I remember my brother ran into a bar, and luckily there was a doctor. The doctor got the bleeding stable, they called medical aid, and yeah, the doctor spoke to them as well. He said it's life or death, so they sent ambulance. The ambulance took me to a small airport where I got into a helicopter. The helicopter took me to a bigger airport where I got into a private jet. Yeah, and then I got into another ambulance, and we moved to the Santon clinic, basically, where the team was like waiting for me. But I basically lost track at the airplane. I remember distinctly asking on the helicopter, I wanted to see the lights. I had the headset and I watched a lot of movies, so I knew that there was a mic thing there, so I pulled the mic thing closer. Yeah, I'm not sure how I did, but pulled it closer, and I remember just asking, can I see the lights? That was such a cool experience. That was probably the most spectacular thing ever. That, yeah, it still is there. I don't know. It still is there, and every time I see lights, I get this sense of safety. I never realized. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's where I realized I'm okay now. I'm gonna be okay now. And I actually didn't know. But yeah, I went into a massive 8-hour operation through the night. They don't know if we're gonna keep the fingers. The doctor came out during the operation and told my parents that he found most of the actual flesh and meat basically rumpled up here on the top of my hand, and that's how he was able to rebuild the thumb and the pinky. And my pinky and my ring finger are actually still both a little bit shorter. Yeah, it is something. And then at 8 years old, that's actually, I'm jumping. This was like 3 or 4 operations to get it right afterwards, yeah. So we had the initial one and basically three operations on it afterwards. Yeah. I actually contacted the resort and the doctor, and it was such a blast from the past, basically thinking like 24 years ago. That's the stuff, that I basically went through. I got the x-rays from the hand with the pins inside. I still have the metal pins in my actual childhood drawers. It's incredible. It's been such a journey, and it still bothers me to this day, unfortunately. I just had physio today for it. Last year in November I had an operation because of a tendon issue with it, and anomalous bands growing around the nerves. We're not 100% sure if it's linked to this or not, but most likely the doctor said it's linked to a past trauma, even carpal tunnel op. So it's still there. The one thing I can say is, after a lot of work, I finally reached the edge. Finally got that 6-year-old out of that damn pool. I finally got him out. So that was the hardest one to talk about. From here it should get a little bit better. I still don't like talking about that incident because the memories are so vivid. It's just a bit much. At 8 years old, I had a groin operation. That was not as big. It was not as big, but unfortunately, because it is groin area, and as boys at that age, you get teased. And I unfortunately got teased by my eldest brother, who just went ham with it. He basically gave me nicknames, and it was just like the biggest joke ever. Unfortunately, in an 8-year-old head, is that does not feel like you are safe. And then you go to school, you get teased there, you do not feel safe. And then you start looking at the authority figures and start resenting them for not keeping you safe. That is unfortunately where a lot of the authority issues started. I did go for a lot of therapy after the 6-year-old thing with the hand. Unfortunately, once a foundation has cracks, it's much easier for the actual leaks to seep in, even if you have try and put some sealant on. It's like the best analogy I have at this point. So unfortunately, that's where a lot of the authority resentment started. And then it actually calmed down a little bit, like major accident wise. We had the pinky that was broken at around 10 years old, but that wasn't big. And then we had the appendix burst at about 13 years old. Now that was quite a lovely one because it was burst. It burst. Unfortunately, I had to go for a emergency operation, and I distinctly remember having my second near-death experience there on my way to the hospital, having a proper out-of-body experience, and just having the weirdest time on my way there. The calmest thing, and it's such a weird thing, but because it burst, I have this big scar underneath my belly, where they had to take it out, did ICU for about a week or so, and basically that just created it even further. It just pushed the issues, and it basically made this your own body is not safe. So now you're not safe at school, you're not safe at home, now your own body's not safe. And with each event, a certain muscle group basically started acting up, if I can say it like that. And as I've been working through each event, basically, I realized that certain parts were releasing. So the hand was basically just the hand. It was like a chronic, almost clench that was happening in it. It was like a low-grade clench, and it's finally releasing a little bit. The actual groin op was much more lower back. I'm not sure if the areas are related specifically like that or not, but the appendix, unfortunately, was much more stomach. That's where a lot of my stomach issues started, was at that age. So that was such a weird combination of effects. Was you basically each time add another issue. It's not really part of it, but actually fully that's the cause. It's just a symptom. So with the appendix, that's where, because I had this authority issue, now I needed to stay in the hospital. That's where we started fighting with the doctors and stuff like that. And 17 years old, I shot myself with the pellet gun in my right foot. Unfortunately, when I got to the doctor, the guy was not familiar with how the like how the gun stuff works. And because it was a pellet gun and he didn't know, he just wanted to call the cops. So eventually what I did was we just told him it was a toy. What he did not realize is it is the most powerful toy you are allowed to have before it is legally classified as a gun. So it shot through the skin, through the meat, and hit bone and shattered. And because it shattered, the surface area was quite large, and it just kept rubbing across tendons, destroying skin, bone, you name it. That also led to a long duration of me just being constantly exposed to lead, which gets absorbed as calcium in your bloodstream, and I have an actual bone damage. So it just, well, it gets absorbed as calcium and gets added to your bone, not bloodstream, sorry. And because I had an injury on the bone, it would use that and just like put it there. And eventually we went to another doctor because the foot just like swelled up like massively and I could barely walk. But he said it needs to come out as soon as possible. So we went in for another emergency operation to get it out. Unfortunately, we did not realize that the actual symptoms linked to it was a lot of, quite a lot of exposure to the lead. And 18 and 19-year-old Vian was the most aggressive bastard you have ever met. And not like in lightly aggressive, like, and I got off of my car when a guy, a couple of evenings in a row, he gave me the finger while coming home from work at 19 years old. And I literally told him, I'm gonna take your finger. I got out with my knife and I wanted his finger. I was adamant. I really wanted his finger. And when his buddy said a bunch of shit, I wanted his tongue. It's like, yeah. Unfortunately, I only realized that afterwards, quite long afterwards, after I watched a video about why we have unleaded gas and how the actual leaded gas created an incredible influx of violent crime. And then I could put two and two together. Unfortunately, nobody really realized what was going on until a couple of years later. And then the big one happened. So that was another near-death experience, which puts us at about 3 now. Then the actual Achilles tendon snapped on the right foot while I was playing rugby for the varsity. The first op went well. We recovered, went for holiday, went back to varsity. As I was recovering, trying to regain fitness, I snapped a small muscle in the ankle that helps with the planting of your foot, and it just kept bleeding. So I had a lot of internal bleeding and my foot just swelled. It just went massive. Had to go for 3 operations where all 3 I stopped breathing. The first one was probably the worst, the second worst near-death experience I had, but out of all 3 it was the worst. With the stop breathing one, it was something else. So because it has an infection, I had to go in for them to drain it. They put a drain in, and when I came out I was in extreme amount of pain, and for some reason I just stopped breathing. And I had this weird experience where I passed out basically, but I knew exactly what was going on. I saw my that time girlfriend running down the corridor towards the nurses station, and basically them grabbing the crash cart and bringing it. with the friend of mine at that time. He was there. I literally saw him leave and walk out, and where he went for a cigarette. And it was the funniest thing afterwards. They asked, my ex-girlfriend at that time asked, where did he go? And I was like, he went for a smoke. And when he came back, it's like, I just needed to have a smoke, man. So it was such an incredible experience to actually be up, and it's weird. It's like a drone vision where you look down and you see like literally everything happening there. It's literally like the movies. It's literally like that. The second one I do not remember at all. They just told me I stopped breathing on the actual table. I don't remember that at all. The third op, I had my fifth near-death experience, and that was almost similar. They said I stopped breathing on the operation table, and one of the weirdest experiences I had was I could literally see my mom and my girlfriend of that time actually standing outside, and like literally them. I actually I felt like I overheard their conversations, and they actually confirmed afterwards that they could hear inside the actual like theater room them telling me like, breathe, Mr. Basson, breathe, just breathe for us, we need you to breathe. And she had like a panic attack, as far as I can remember at this point, and my mom was calming her down. I only had learned that after the fact, but I knew that when I came out. And it still baffles me to this day that is actually stuff that I experienced. I for so long I have been telling myself it was dreams, it was part of the nightmares I had, and it wasn't. It was literally just, you were basically almost checking out, and for some reason you're not allowed to yet.